One.
Hi, my name is Hannah Hammond, and today I'm going to talk about crime rate analysis. So the main idea in my project was to look at different crimes, which I did 3 different crimes, which included murder, rape, and robbery. I kind of picked those as the most popular ones that are talked about. So what I looked at was the link between the crime rate and the poverty rate. So my hypothesis was when the poverty rate increases, so does the crime rate. And I did this by analyzing the correlation between the poverty rate and the crime rate, obviously. And then I looked at the time analysis to see whether crimes increased or decreased and to see if there were any odd patterns throughout the years of 1994 and 2014. So the major stakeholders here that I determined were the FBI, which is where I got my data from, other fields of criminal justice, which include even just the government overall, but places such as like jails or facilities that help criminals once they get out. There's so many different organizations or fields that could use this data and benefit from it. And it also includes nonprofit organizations that help fight crime or poverty. Always using rates and their presentations can be helpful. So there's a wide variety of people that can benefit from this data. So the first one I'm going to start talking about is time analysis. And so the first crime that I am going to go through is murder. And so I just want to give you kind of the lowdown of how the rate works is so it's out of every 100,000 people in the population of the United States. So for example, here in 1994, the rate was about 9. So that means that out of every 100,000 people, 9 of them murdered someone. So you can see here that throughout the years it decreases, and then it hits 2012, which is very interesting, and I suggest to take note throughout the next 2 crimes that I go through. But in 2012, it spikes from about 4.5 to about 5.5, and then it goes back down in 2013. The reason for that, I'm not sure, but I noted it as something that's very interesting among these 3 crimes. So the next one is rape. And in 1994, it was about 40 people for every 100,000, which is decently high. And as throughout the years go by, it does the same pattern in 2012, so it spikes up again. And then in 2013, it goes back down. So the highest rate is about 40, and the lowest here is about 25. The next one is robbery, and robbery is significantly higher than both crimes. Probably because the punishment is not as severe. But in 1994, it was all the way up to almost 250 people. That means for every 100,000 people, 250 of them committed a robbery crime. However, it did decrease pretty quick all the way up to 1999, and then it kind of had a steady up and down phase throughout the next years, and then it does the same pattern in 2012 where the crime spiked again and then went back down in 2013. So that's definitely something that should be researched after this project. And I think that maybe there's an important trend within that year that made all three of those crime rates increase. So the next thing that I want to talk about is correlation analysis. And this is the correlation between the crime rates and the poverty rates. So the first one here is the poverty rate and the murder rate. And right here, the number 0.905 is the p-value. And if the p-value is greater than 0.05, then we would accept the null hypothesis, which means that there's no correlation between the poverty rate and the murder rate. So as you can see here, the p-value is 0.905, which is almost no correlation because it is so much greater than 0.05 as the base value. The next one is rape, and it is it's significantly smaller than the 0.95, but it still is a lot greater than 0.05, so therefore there isn't as much correlation to the poverty rate. So there still is a little bit more of a correlation between the rape rate and the poverty rate versus the murder rate here, which is, 0.905. And the next one is the robbery rate, which sort of surprised me a little bit because I expected there to be a lot more correlation between the robbery rate and the poverty rate versus the rape rate and the poverty rate. But their p-value is 0.758, which is closer to the murder rate and the poverty rate. So there again, there's really not that much of a correlation, which I was surprised. So the benefits from this study is pretty much the focus on the cause of an effect on poverty, and it's narrowed down to, not poverty, obviously, because there was so little correlation. So it kind of eliminates that question of whether poverty has anything to do with the crimes. So a lot of people study what, goes into crime rates and why crime rates are higher some years and aren't others. So it kind of takes out that questioning of whether the poverty rate affects it. And then it allows stakeholders to analyze and see what crimes need to be more addressed. And this has more to do with the time analysis. So as you could see, robbery rates are incredibly higher than, murder rates. So whether there's, more laws that need to be brought out against robbery or higher punishment. So different ways like that of what could the stakeholders do to bring down robbery and rape, because both of us were significantly higher than murder. What could they do to bring those down? Could be another benefit from the study. So here there's a little bit of success and a little bit of unsuccess. So the success is that it gives a clear message that poverty rate is not correlated with the crime rates. The success, though, is that, crime rates have decreased throughout the years, which was good to see. And then the unsuccessfulness of the test is obviously my null hypothesis was accepted, which means my actual hypothesis was declined and was proven incorrect. So in that way, it was unsuccessful. And then the information was somewhat useful. It's useful in the sense that, it doesn't show correlation, so therefore there's really no correlation between the two. So in that way it is useful, but there's really not much you can do after that. So in that way it's a little bit unuseful, in my opinion. But that was my project, and